Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian at the International Seapower Symposium at the Naval War College, and joining us now is Vice Admiral Tim Barrett, who is the Chief of the Australian Navy. Sir, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Or I should say Royal Australian Navy.
Royal Australian Navy.
You've obviously come for a very long way to attend this conference. There are 100 heads of Navy and Coast Guard that are here, or I should say 100 heads of Navy and Coast Guard and other senior officials from 100 different nations. Talk to us a little bit about how important conferences like this are.
This is my third attendance at an International Seapower Symposium here at Newport. I'm here for the third occasion because I see the value and the importance of what it provides. We talk a lot about collaboration, cooperation, but until you actually sit down with your peers and you discuss it face to face, then often you don't really get to practice it as well as you should. So this sort of engagement is very, very important.
What are some of the key ideas? The CNO, Admiral John Richardson, who's the host of this event, said, the whole key of this is for folks to take away. What are some of the takeaways from the conference so far for you?
Well, we all have a different perspective of things that might happen in our region. Be it locally for me will be a little more remote for others. But at the end of the day, what happens in my region often happens elsewhere around the world. As we talk about here, it is the global commons. Wherever piracy might occur, be it in the Gulf of Guinea, be it in somewhere off Somalia, or be it near Singapore, for instance. It's the same aspects that navies have to deal with. So we come here, we share ideas, we look at each other's practices, but we talk a lot about how we will fix those problems around the world. So to meet up, to share ideas, and to hopefully find solutions to those problems is all important.
We're based in Washington. Obviously here in the United States, there's a different perspective on what's going on in Asia than it is from somebody who's sitting in that region. China is something that is taking up quite a lot of attention. Obviously there's a senior Chinese representative here as well who's sitting through, who's a delegate. From your standpoint, what are the major geostrategic challenges in the region? And especially when it comes to China, what's the right approach for countries to take with China?
Well, you're right. We live in that region. We have to operate. Both China and Japan are our major trading partners. But we still need to use those waters to ply our trade. And so not just China, but any other claimant of the areas around those waters, we would implore them to follow the norms of international law. It's important, again, around the world that everyone does that when you are using the high seas as your main means of keeping your economic growth going for your country. So we don't take sides. We do insist that those that are party to disputes use international law as a means to resolve them.
Is there a concern, what's sort of the Australian view? And obviously in the United States, several of the other countries in the region are particularly concerned about the artificial islands that have been built. Then there was the concern about militarization of it. We've seen that with aircraft being deployed, and now there is an expectation that air defense as well as strike missiles will be based. What's an Australian view of that kind of an action, which so many people in the region see as an escalation?
Well, again, it is important that we present a view, many voices having the same message, and that is the areas of dispute need to be settled through the courts. They need to be done through international means. Our view is pretty common with other nations around the region, but also around the world.
Let me take you to the issue of modernization. One of the key programs, obviously, for Australia has been the Collins Replacement Program. Can you give us a little bit of an update on what the top priorities are, and particularly on that program, where you stand on it?
Sure. Firstly, we're in a great position at the moment. Australia is about to recapitalise its Navy, the greatest recapitalisation we've really had since the Second World War. New submarines, a program for replacement of our current 6 Collins-class, which are really coming into their own at the moment, but they will need replacing. So the new program will introduce 12 new submarines, a conventional submarine, but a large ocean-going conventional submarine. That's just the nature of our operations in that region. So that program is well in train. We have selected our design partner, but we will be building a submarine for Australia, not taking someone else's submarine.
Because that's right, the French DCNS won that contract with the modification of their Barracuda submarine.
They did, but we have chosen them as a design partner, and we will be building an Australian submarine.
There was a question. Obviously, the Royal Australian Navy and the US Navy have had a very, very intimate relationship, particularly so on submarines, where the U.S. and Australia share the same combat system, same torpedoes. There are some who've suggested that there was a challenge or a hiccup in that relationship by going with the French approach. Have you sensed any issue, and have you discussed that with your U.S. counterparts, whether it was John Green or John Richardson? Is there any problem with that?
We've been talking to our US counterparts for quite some time. It's not just the matter that we operate the same combat system and the same weapons. We're in the same business. We collaborate along the very effects we're trying to deliver. So we've gone into this new submarine project with full understanding of what needs to be done to maintain those very strong links we've had in the past. So yes, I've had lots to say and lots of discussions, not just at my level, but within my organisation and within the acquisition organisation within Australia. We've had constant conversations with our US counterparts as to where we would go. We are a smart buyer in submarines here. We built the Collins-class in Australia. We do know we're a submarine operator, not just a submarine owner. So we do make sure that those things that we guard jealously will be able to continue with our new submarines.
Well, two very quick questions. One is a submarine follow-up, which is there were a lot of lessons learned from the Collins program, and Australian friends of mine have told me the things to avoid, shifting the home port, a couple of other decisions that were made. Are there a lot of lessons learned from that program that are being incorporated in this one?
Absolutely. Indeed, there are a lot of lessons learned that are being used at the moment with the Collins enterprise. Collins has really had a turnaround in the last 3 years. The availability I'm seeing in Collins at the moment is extraordinary, and the boats are doing what they were designed to do. We've learned our lessons from there, not just for the new submarine, but in the way we operate Collins as it is at the moment.
Let me ask you also about your two big amphibious assault ships. Huge quantum leap in capability. Tell us a little bit about what these ships are allowing the Royal Australian Navy to do that it couldn't do before.
Well, it's a reinvigoration of a nascent amphibious capability that we've had in the past. We bought them so that we could provide an amphibious capability, but they are hugely versatile ships, and we've been using them for many other things as well.
Because they were about 27,000 tons.
They are 27,500 tons. They're cavernous inside. We've used them recently on exercise at RIMPAC, so we've been carrying not just our own troops, but carrying US forces as well. But we've been clearing aircraft, particularly rotary aircraft, well, just rotary aircraft, not just from our own nation, but from other nations as well, to allow us to be able to operate a vast array, regardless of where we are. But they've also been successful in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Not that that's why we bought them, but they find the utility of the very size of these ships has allowed us to recently provide assistance to Fiji after a major cyclone through that area. We were able to get to the area quickly. We were able to persist in our presence there, and we were able to provide all the services that were needed ashore when we were called upon by the Fijian government.
And one last question on the F-35. Australia is one of the anchor partners. Do you see a Stovall variant of that aircraft, the F-35B, to be able to operate off of your big deck ships?
Look, it's a question I'm always asked. It's not current government policy to do that.
Sir, thanks so very much, and best of luck.
Thanks very much.